Chief Dixon-Carter, I've already got your first question. It came in the middle of the video, but you're not allowed to hear it until after your briefing. And folks, same rules as with the Chief of Staff earlier today. Just use the Q&A for anything you want to lob at my good friend Yolondria. Ma'am, take it away.
Hi, good evening. I want to first thank Jack and Joe for allowing me an opportunity to speak to you all today. I know it is very late in the afternoon, early evening, so I will do my best to make my comments brief because I'm interested in hearing from you on this evening. And if not this evening, most definitely, hopefully we will hear from you on tomorrow during the panel of discussion. But I just want to take a few minutes, and I don't want to necessarily focus on things that are very one officer centric, but things that are Army centric that we as one officers, as the chief spoke about today, where they really need our help. I've had the opportunity to listen to and read a variety of diversity and inclusion projects. And in most cases, there are not one officer representations on these panels, whether it's from the active component, National Guard, reserves, or even our retired forces. And so I think it's important that we include one officers as our Army is transitioning, as it's transforming, modernizing, and it's reforming. It's important that we include all of our one officers. So I kind of want to talk to you today, if that's okay, about a couple of things that the chief mentioned today that's part of his priority. What I started to do after the video was just say, hey, I really thank you for your time. I hope you have a great evening. And you are dismissed for the evening. But I'm sure Jack and Joe would probably crush me if I were to do something like that. So having said that, I just want to talk about, some of the things that's keeping our Army senior leadership, up at night, if you will, and that's pressing on their mind. Our focus on mission, has gotten a little out of balance. And part of that is because we've spent the last 2 decades in sustained combat operations, and specifically, in deployments, rotational requirements, as well as other training requirements. And it has put a significant amount of stress on our soldiers, on our families, on our civilians, on our veterans and our retirees, on our communities. And so as a result, we're faced with a lot of trust deficiencies between our leaders and between our soldiers. And when we lack trust, it amplifies those things that the chief talked about today, such as sharp incidents, suicides, racism, and extremism. It divides and it breaks trust, not just within our formations or our platoons or our squads, but it breaks and it divides between our families, with communities, with the American people as a whole. And to fight this, I feel like we have to be deliberate. We have to take deliberate actions in building and reestablishing trust with our soldiers and our families and our civilians, our veterans, and our soldiers. We hear the chief talk about all the time, people first, and people first does not start and end with soldiers, but it's our soldiers, it's our families, it's our civilians, it's our retirees and our veterans. And so with that, we have to, I believe, in order to remain ready and to maintain readiness to modernize our Army and to reform our Army, we have to build cohesive teams. We have to understand that people are people first. And why? It's not just a philosophy. It's not just something nice to say, but people first, it's a priority. And the secretary and the chief has now, before people first was kind of like a philosophy, but our main priority was readiness, modernization, and reform. But now the secretary and the chief has said that our number one priority are people first. And why? Because winning matters. So you may ask, as I've asked, previously, well, what about, for one officers, how do one officers fit into this? Yes, we as one officers, we must be technically competent. We must be competent enough to know our job. We must be committed. We have to be committed to our profession, and we must portray character, that is the epitome of our Army 7 values: loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage, no doubt. But we also must care. We also must care enough to invest in people and give them what I call time. Everybody wants some time to do something. I want time to do my job. I want time to go on vacation. I want time to spend with my family. I want time on your calendar. You want time on my calendar. We want time on their calendar. Something always, it surrounds time. And so I would ask you right now, if this is your squad, as the Sergeant Major of the Army has the TIMS initiative, this is my squad. If you look around the room right now, and I would ask that you look around the room, look to your left, look to your right. I don't know how the room is made up, but I'm sure somebody is sitting next to you, maybe 6 feet apart or so.
Hi, ladies.
That wasn't me.
Whoops. That was us. You keep going, ma'am.
I said look around. I didn't say shut me down. But if you would just look around the room, that's part of your squad, the United States Army Warrant Officers Association. And if you're a part of that squad, if that is your squad, then we owe it, you owe it, we owe time. And so I would ask if you could put up that next slide, please. So time. And so what you see here is you see the golden triangle that the chief talked about, the golden triangle, the SMA talks about, and other Army senior leadership they talk about, and that's time. And, excuse me, that's the golden triangle. And I believe that golden triangle is part of time. Each one of us, we want time to talk, inspire, mentor, and engage. And also the people that are in our squads, they want to hear from us. They want to hear from us. They want time for us to talk to them, to inspire them, to mentor them, and to engage. Talk. Get to know your people beyond their titles, beyond their grades, beyond their position, beyond their status. We have to start taking a genuine interest in people and getting to know them. And truth be told, just as much as we're talking to them, we're getting out and we're learning, talking to our soldiers, we have to talk to our civilians. We have to talk to our family members and have them engaged, as well as to our communities. Get to know what interests, what excites them, what inspires them, what motivates them. Find out what are their recommendations on how maybe we can do things better as an Army. And so, but just as much as we talk, we must also listen. We have to listen actively as we talk about our personal experiences. Take time to ask someone else about their personal experience and their thoughts, their thoughts on the things that are going on. Diversity and inclusion, if you will, uncomfortable conversations. It's interesting. There was a listening tour earlier today at one of the installations, and some of the feedback that we received was, it's interesting how everyone will get engaged and they will talk about sharp incidents and suicides. But when it comes to racism, they specifically want to hear from minorities, which is understandable because it's minorities that may be experiencing racism. But it's not just the person that may be experiencing this, but even some people have observed it, indirectly. And so it's a collective conversation. It's not just, because you're an Asian female and you're sitting amongst, a group of men that you're the only one that can speak to minority. So, just sit down and have a conversation and talk to people, engage to people. Every conversation is not necessarily going to be a comfortable conversation, but most of them, the uncomfortable conversations, especially at a time such as this, they are necessary. Inspire. People don't need to just feel that you care. People need to know that you care. I'm sure many of you have heard the saying that people don't care about how much you know until they know how much you care. And I feel like, having talked to my squad, my soldiers, if you will, and when we have conversations, we have very candid conversations. And if you don't show a person that you care, you can tell them you care all day long, but they want to see that you care. It's more than just giving them time off. It's engaging in conversation with them. Some of our soldiers and some of our soldiers and our civilians and even our retirees and veterans, they are not necessarily married or have children, but they have pets. And I'm always intrigued by that person that has, they're not married or they don't have children, but they have a pet. Get to know who the pet, who their pet is, because that's someone that pet is near and dear to their heart. That may seem insignificant to some, but to that person, it goes a long way. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard, people say, it really meant a lot that you knew the name of my dog, or you knew my cat, or you sent me a card when my pet died, or whatever. Small things to some people are huge to other folks. So inspire people, and let them know, just let them know, that they care. Everyone goes through a tough time. Like Chief said today, suicides are up more than they have been in the last couple of years. And part of it is due to COVID, and part of it is due because people don't feel like they are a valued member of the team. So everyone is going through a tough time, and we can't be so focused on moving initiatives across the goal line that we lose sight of empathy. We lose sight of those things that truly matter first and foremost, and that's people. So the next one is mentor. Mentorship does not stop once we become warrant officers or achieve the next rank or position. Many of our warrant officers coming in now, they're getting their senior warrant officer to endorse off on their application. And then that's the end of that relationship between that senior warrant officer, whether it's a 3, it's a 4, or a 5. That's the end of that relationship between that senior warrant officer and that applicant. And although your mentor may change, it can change, and it will change. It does not mean that mentorship it shouldn't be enduring. If I endorse a packet, an application, and I am no longer to provide the mentorship that is needed for that candidate, for that applicant, then I have a responsibility for recommending someone else to, help guide and direct and mentor that warrant officer. So we have to not just endorse a packet and move on. We have to make sure that it is a commitment, that, we're in a professional relationship, if you will, with that warrant officer. And again, if you can't do that, if you can't be that, then recommend someone else for that soldier. Again, mentorship is not just about from senior to subordinate. I'm mentored each and every day from non-commissioned officers, from civilians, from retirees. Mentorship goes up and it goes down and it goes all around. We can learn from each and every person that we encounter if we would just take an opportunity to just talk and actively listen to what is being said. Engage. Engaging goes back to talk. It's a full circle here. It goes back to talk. You have to take interest in the lives of people, genuine interest, not just interest because someone told you to be interested in them. Soldiers know, they pick up on whether you're really interested in them or not. You may ask how they're doing, but yet you continue to walk before they can even respond with how they're really doing. I have a thing that, if I ask someone, how was their weekend, and they say it was good, I'm like, well, what was good about it? It's more conversation. And yes, I get it. We're all busy. And, we get busy and we want to run through the day, but sometimes you just got to take a pause, and you really have to connect with people and engage with people. I've also, said to my squad, I understand that I'm busy, but you don't get to determine that I'm too busy for you. That's what I do. If I feel like I can't stop doing what I'm doing to give you my undivided attention, I'll let you know. But you don't get to tell me that I'm too busy for you, because I'm not. And so, again, going back to, engaging in talk, we have to make people feel like they are a member of your squad. They are a member of that squad, that they have worth, that they have value. It's awarding and complimenting, if you will, for those little things that they do. You may feel like, and you can have a number of squads. For the next 3 days, my squad is the United States Army Warrant Officer Association. 48th annual members meeting. That's my squad. I may not be able to connect to you all day, every day that we're going to have this, but I will be connected. And when it ends on the 23rd of October, I will still be connected to the United States Army Warrant Officers Association, because I am a part of that squad. And I appreciate those members who reach out to me just to say, Yolondria, hi, how are you doing? I appreciate the fact that people reach out to me, not because I'm Chief Dixon-Carter, not because I'm the Senior Warrant Officer Advisor to the Chief of Staff of the Army, but because I am a human being who sometimes need that encouragement. I need time. I need someone to talk to. I need someone to inspire me. I need someone to mentor me, and I need someone to engage. So if you have time, and I'm sure each one of us has time, I promise you that time will get after a lot of things that we in the Army, that what we're trying to get after, those sharp incidents, those suicides, I believe that they will decrease. And I believe that racism and extremism, that it will go down if we would just take an opportunity and we would take time with each other. And so I have a question for you. You know, the person that you may be sitting next to, or someone that you may have encountered, you know, today or met today, can you name one thing about that person, you know, a fun fact about that person that you're sitting next to or that you've encountered today? And so, of course, I can't see heads going north or south or east or west. But if you haven't, I encourage you to engage that person that's next to you, because if winning matters, people must matter, and they must be our number one priority. And so I'm going to pause there. I know that there are a couple of questions, and I know probably some of them are not related to what I'm talking about, and that's fine. But I really, really want, I am asking you, and I'm asking that you take it back to your installation, you take it back to your communities, you take it back to your businesses, you know, that has some knowledge of what we do in the Army. How can we do better at making sure that we're building cohesive teams, that we are reestablishing trust, that our families will trust their son, that when their sons and daughters sign up for the United States Army, that they will be taken care of, that we will do our best to make sure that we safeguard their son, their daughter, their husband, their wife, their brother, their sister, their grandchild. And we need your help in doing that. It's not just an Army thing. It is a we thing. And it's going to take all of us, soldiers, civilians, families, veterans, retirees, our communities, to make this a better organization. And making it a better organization is actually going to contribute to the betterment of our nation. So I would ask you for your recommendations on how we can get after this. But I would also ask that you take some time as a leader, as a soldier, as a family, as a buddy, and that you will take time to talk, inspire, and mentor and engage others. Jack, I don't think we're 6 feet apart. I may need to put my mask on.
Hey, I'm starting to get used to it. Hey, ma'am, thank you so much for that. And we do have some comments and questions. As a matter of fact, why am I getting reverb, by the way? Oh, I'm supposed to turn that off. I got it.
I can't hear you. Nope.
How about now?
Yes, sir.
Outstanding. Okay, we're gonna. Oh, and there we go. Never mind. Okay, it's 2020. Let's just go with it. Hey, our good friend Kevin Boughton said, hey, I in sort of response to your call to everybody said, hey, I offer an example of a best practice on mentorship. And he says, when I was the chief of MI Warrant Officer Training Branch, I had each course WOBC manager email the senior warrant officer who had endorsed the W1, a given W1, to let them know how the W01 was doing and how they did in class. And his intent was to encourage follow-on mentorship beyond WOCS and WOBC. I didn't know if you wanted to comment on that briefly.
No, I think that's great, Kevin. Hey, thank you. Thanks for everything that you're doing, and for your emails of encouragement. I appreciate it. But Kevin, I think that's a great idea because it says, one, you're an engaging leader. You're holding leaders accountable, and that's what we need to do. And when it comes to all of this, we have to hold leaders accountable. If I am signing an application, endorsing an application, I have a responsibility for seeing that applicant through, for seeing that one officer through. And again, if I cannot fulfill my roles and responsibilities, it's a job, it's a job that if I can't perform the roles and responsibilities of my job, it's my responsibility to say, I can't do this anymore, and here's whom I would recommend. It's the same thing for mentorship. If I am not an effective mentor, for whatever reason it should be, I have to be a big enough person, a professional enough person to say, I can no longer give you what is required for you to continue on the path of success, if you will. So thanks for doing that, Kevin, holding leaders accountable.
That's good stuff. I had another question, and it may bleed into tomorrow's talent management panel, where you're with all those other wonderful senior warrant officer leaders and the deputy director of the task force. But Wesley K asks, CW5 Dixon-Carter, can you provide an update and way ahead for the Army Warrant Officer Council?
I absolutely can. Jack actually sent it back last week, and so we have to do a little bit more, give a little bit more details on man hours and the cost, the funding, and everything like that for that. COVID has, because of everything going on with COVID, so COVID has taken a bulk of Army funding, if you will, and so the council is not going to cost that much. It really isn't, based on when we plan on having, how frequent we plan on having the meetings, but there's still a small cost associated with it. So we had to go back for that. And then we also have to, your time is actually calculated and factored in that. And it's something that I learned as we were putting it together. And so JAG would like for us to calculate, the time that it's going to take for all of the meetings. So we have just not a whole lot of work to do, but we do have just a little bit more work to do. And so I'm hopeful by the end of the year that it will get back through and that it will be approved, and we'll have start our council next month. That's a great question. Thank you.
Oh, one of our folks here is asking, who's asking for the analysis?
OAA, Office of the Administrative. Is that Hal back there asking for the analysis? You tell Hal to hold all his questions until tomorrow. I can't hear very well, but my eyesight is pretty good.
Well, okay. Let me see. What else do we have here? Let's see. Oh my goodness, look at this. It is definitely the end of the day. So we have, oh, no, I can't do that. Well, here's one. Teresa, another friend of yours, says,
Did you pay Hal and Teresa to ask questions?
I know that. I had no idea this was coming. In fact, I just looked and went, wait a minute, that's Teresa. She says, great job, DC. Thank you for being a part of my squad. You are an outstanding leader.
Oh.
So,
thank you. Hey, I would tell you, the chief was talking earlier this week and last week about the accomplishments of Army National Guard and the reserves and everything, that they've been doing. They've always come through whenever you're called upon, but this year has been an incredible year for Compo 2 and 3. And I just got to echo what the chief has said in terms of what you're doing, not just COVID and humanitarian operations, but the the RCI training that you all have done, you know, what you did at Fort McClellan, Alabama, and what you've done at Camp Atterbury. I have never had the opportunity to witness that type of training. And I would tell you, hands down, 100% flawlessly executed. If anything was wrong, it was definitely not seen. It was all taken care of behind the scenes. But for the latest in Camp Atterbury, you all just recently graduated 203 or 205 candidates that walked across that field. That's an awesome achievement, an awesome job. You had TAC officers that had never met each other before, that came from across the globe, came together, and you would have thought that they had been working together for years. But that's a cohesive team. That was a team that the students trusted their leaders, their instructors, and the instructors trusted each other in order to lead those candidates. And so you talk about feeling like a valued member of the team. When I got on ground, from the time of the welcome to the time of, you know, farewell, I felt like I was a member of the team. I was like, hey, I'm ready to go to school again. You know, can I go right here? But that's what it's all about. It's about bringing everybody together.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you one more serious question, and then I have a COVID-related funny, and I think we can all close out. And I'm not taking credit for it. It was given to me here. So let me. Okay, look, and now we've got more popping in. I may have to keep you busy for a couple more minutes. But Marvin asks, you stated that warrant officers are missing on diversity and inclusion boards. How do we get there?
Thank you for asking, Marvin. Every installation, every is an absolute. Most installations should have a diversity and inclusion council or a committee. There should be listening tours. You should have heard a Life Worth Living, which is getting after suicides. And you should have heard about a listening tour, which you have Army senior leadership that's coming to their different installations, and they're listening. They're having groups. They're having different sessions with groups, and they're talking about those three buckets of things that we talked about earlier. And so if you're not hearing about that, I absolutely need to know. I would tell you specifically, when the chief goes out to talk, I always look at the list of how many they're asking from each category. And if I don't see a warrant officer on there, you better believe that I'm asking for, hey, if you're asking for 20 people to be in a room, at least five need to be a warrant officer. If you can't give me five, then give me at least three of them that should be a warrant officer in there. So as you see, you know, our Army senior leadership, specifically our vice and our under, when they go out and they're doing a Life Worth Living, you should be in that room also for those. And again, if that's not happening, please, I'm on the global, you know, let me know about those, because the warrant officers, you have a different perspective in how you see things, how you view things. We're advisors. That's what we do. We advise. We give our best military advice. And what better way to advise than to serve on one of these committees?
Oh, that's great. And so Kevin asks, what are your thoughts on rearm for warrant officers? That's R small e cap all caps ARMM.
That's a great question. And that's one that,
well, maybe one you can address at the panel tomorrow.
Yeah, actually, that is one that we're going to address at the panel tomorrow. Actually, Mr. Kilgore is going to address that at the panel. And if it's not addressed, I assure you that I will address it.
Oh, that's great. That's good stuff.
Or Teresa, or Hal, or John, or Will, or Jack.
Hey, you know what? I mean, if you can't get your squad involved, you know. So, well, let me just leave you with one fun fact, and then we're going to let you off the hook. Okay, ma'am?
Gotcha.
So here's a fun fact from Alicia. And she says it's an end of the day laugh. So she's teleworking from home, and she's got 2 German Shepherds under her desk. And after each of these meetings ends, if someone should say "take care," that has mysteriously become the code word for "go to the cookie jar." So there are a lot of meetings during the day that end in "take care." So there's our COVID-19 statement on trying to be professional from home. And we thank you so much for joining us, Ms. Dixon-Carter, and we certainly look forward to you and all the other magnificent senior warrant officer leaders that are going to gather for the together with the general tomorrow for the talent management panel. So go ahead.
No. Thank you again for having us here. For having us, both the chief and myself. We definitely look forward to the panel tomorrow. Lots of talk, lots of conversation that's out there. Many people want to know how we're doing in talent management, how we're doing in our PME. And so we have quite a few people that's on the panel that'll be able to talk to that. So I'm looking forward to the discussion on tomorrow. It's always great to come together and have, a panel of discussion on those things that truly matter to us as a warrant officer cohort.
No, that's wonderful. Thank you very much, ma'am, and go recharge, and we'll see you tomorrow.
I say, well, thank you.
Thanks, ma'am.